Today I'll be talking about Safier's The Big Picture. It's a clarity strategy. So we're going to be framing the learning, and that is essentially what the big picture is about. So you want to communicate an objective, give an itinerary, remind students of the essential question, activate their current knowledge, make connections, transition, foreshadow, and summarize in your class. Objective lets the students know what they will know or be able to do as a result of the lesson, and directs them to focus on what they're viewing and what they need to know at the end. You should say and write this out. It's called a SWOBOT. Students will be able to. An itinerary is an agenda and lists the sequence of steps involved in your class period, and it helps students understand how to get to their objective. It gives them a mental sequence to follow, and it's as simple as writing down your welcome, Q&A, activity, summary in order of when it's happening. For example, you can say, this morning we're going to go over your homework chapters 1 through 3 in Catcher in the Rye. We will be looking at the material in chapter 4 and then do group work on the emerging theme in the book. And that lets them know what their expectations are. You should connect to the essential question or the big idea throughout your lesson. So you can say you're exploring themes in Catcher in the Rye today and how you can contribute to your projects. And that just connects that back to your itinerary, agenda, and objective. You need to tell students why learning this matters. This is the who cares question. They need to understand usefulness in order to complete a lesson and activity and find meaning in it, and you need to remind them why it's important. You can say that the themes of books helps us understand plot and character development. It helps you understand how to write your essays better. It helps you understand how to read books better. So they just need to know why. You need to activate their current knowledge with an activator. This can be a KWL chart. That's the what I know, what I want to know, and what I learned. It can be a discussion. It can be brainstorming on blank sheets of paper with markers. It can be sharing ideas with news articles or books or laminated objects or other types of materials where students are picking them up and talking about it. Or you can do semantic mapping, which includes listing associations on the board and labeling categories. So you could say you have theme on one side, plot on the other, and students are putting sticky notes up from the Catcher in the Rye. Making connections shows resemblance to something the students already know. So you want to connect to, if you're reading a book, what's been happening in the book and what they already know. So you can make an anchoring table. You can use familiar information on the left, new information on the right, similarities in the middle, and then a summary question or statement at the bottom. And that just means you're taking what information the students already know and they're listing it out, and they can make connections to that with the new material. Making transition between ideas usually is applicable in direct instruction and is a brief statement within a transition. So you can say, okay, we understand one aspect of Holden's personality. He is lonely. Let's move on and see if we can come up with another personality trait. And that way they're making their own transition. If you're doing a signal shift in activity pace or level, it's as simple as talking at a transition point. If it's a shift in activity, you're saying, okay, that's all for the activity on the theme today. Let's take a look at the next chapter so we can preview the new material. If you're shifting in pace, you can say, okay, we need to pick up the pace to finish on time. Let's do the last questions on the board. And if you're shifting in level, you want their cognitive capability to go up. So you'll say, okay, we need to talk about themes multiple instead of just a theme. It's the same process, but we need to go more in depth now. And that means they need to level up essentially and think deeper. With foreshadowing, it takes a term or idea that crops up in a discussion, and it creates an image of what it's like or what it will be about and puts hooks in place for items down the road in your instruction. So you can say that in the Catcher in the Rye, Holden is negative, and you can see a form of breakdown happening in the first couple of chapters, but steer the class towards saying Holden's personality and mental state will be discussed in a few chapters. Let's look at this section because I think it's really important. And so they'll know that's coming up. And finally, summarizing is explicitly putting everything together at the end of a lesson. A student or teacher can fulfill this, but it is more powerful for a student to do it and have the other students be involved. You want to ask them what they know in their own words. They want to ask themselves, what did they learn today? What did they accomplish? When they summarize, they understand it that much more. A good rule to have is 10 to 2. For every 10 minutes of teacher instruction, there should be 2 minutes of students summarizing and clarifying. This can happen in small groups. In summation, framing the big picture is done by making sure students have the following: an objective, an itinerary, an essential question, a reason is worthwhile to learn, an activation of their current knowledge, a connection to their previous knowledge, going through the transitions well, doing signal shifts verbally or written down, foreshadowing what's coming next, and finally summarizing. And that way the big picture happens and they can understand everything they need to know in the lesson. Thank you.